Hi everyone, Nicholas Buffett is here and welcome to today's continuation tutorial of the 2020-24 February-March paper for the 0417 ICT Cambridge examination. This is the variation paper 3.1 and this is the final part of this paper. It's to do with spreadsheets and it is task 5. So if you want to see the previous tasks for this particular paper, just look at my playlist on complete papers and you will find a tutorial covering tasks 1 and 2 and another tutorial covering tasks 3 and 4. This tutorial covers only task 5, which is the spreadsheet part. So let's get started. Okay, task 5, spreadsheets. So very important, we read the question paper carefully. So it says here, you're going to create the spreadsheet to calculate the cost for Serengeti balloon safaris of collecting guests from their lodge or camp. So it's either a lodge or a camp, just highlight that, and taking them to the place where the balloon will launch. The company uses a number of fixed launch sites. The site will change each day depending on the wind direction. All currency values must be in Tanzanian shillings with 2 decimal places and a symbol of TZS. For example, to 12.50 TZS for 12.50 Tanzanian shillings. Okay, so that's just an example. Right, so first things, so just to understand this, what it's saying, people live in a camp or a lodge and there are fixed sites where hot air balloons are going to take off. And which site they're going to go to launch each day depends on the wind speed. So that's going to be dependent. So you might have 10 or 12 or 30 different lodges or camps, and you might have, say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 50 different launch sites. Which launch site is going to be used every day depends on the wind. All right, open and examine the file m24distance.csv. So we're going to go back to our main folder here, m24distance. Now we don't want to make changes to this. Is going to definitely be our lookup table. So I'm just going to expand this so I can see. I'm just going to select all of these, double click between two. So I'm just changing here so I can make sure everything is visible. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Here we've got camp name. It doesn't have anything about lodge. Oh, there you go. So that's a lodge and that's a camp. So there's nothing which distinguishes a lodge and a camp. So they're all together. That's fine. There's a camp code. And what is interesting, this camp code here is an incrementing number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it keeps going. So we may be using this as a column or a row number, probably a row number. And then we've got our launch sites. Our launch site is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. And we're going to see what this number is. So this is basically camp code 1, which is called Singita Serengeti Lodge, and depending on the launch site, this here you've got from this lodge, launch site A is 4.4, B is 15, 18.2 for C, so on and so forth. Guys, this looks like, if you've done enough of these papers, you'd be able to tell straight away what they're going to tell, what they want you to do. There's definitely going to be some kind of lookup, VLOOKUP, where we're going to be looking something up. Okay, and probably getting the name of the camp or the lodge based on the camp code. But because we've got these things at the top here, I'm thinking there's also going to be a HLOOKUP. And the interesting thing is, the row it's going to return from the HLOOKUP is going to be dependent on this incrementing number. That's why they've got this incrementing number. Whenever they give you an incrementing number, chances are you're going to use that as the column reference or the row reference number. But let's see, we're not going to make any judgments yet. So let's just jump over here. Then it says, open and examine the file M24 calc. Okay, so let's open that one as well, M24 calc. Let's just zoom that one in. Let's just make everything. Okay, so here we've got a launch site, so that's E, and a camp code. And we've seen these here. You see, a camp code and the launch site. So there we go. You can tell this is going to be used as a HLOOKUP because it's going horizontal, and it's going to be used as a VLOOKUP because it's vertical. Okay, so let's see what it says. And then you've got a camp name. So the camp name, obviously, we're going to find depending on the camp code with the VLOOKUP. And then you've got distance from camp to launch site in miles. So these numbers here are the distances of the launch sites in miles. So let's say launch site E is 18.2 miles from camp code 1, which is Singita Serengeti Lodge. All right, interesting. Let's move on. Now, I'm reading this through, guys, because as I said, I've only read the question paper and I'm working this through with you so you can see my thinking process. Right, driving time in minutes. So we'll have a look now. Probably it's gonna give us some kind of formula there, and then the cost. Okay, so essentially what this is, they're going to be changing the launch site and the camp code, and it's going to be calculating the distance, the driving time, and the cost. Okay, so let's begin. Let's go to a question paper. So we've done that. Save the file M24 calc CSV as a spreadsheet with a file name, calculate underscore followed by your center number, followed by your candidate number. Format the spreadsheet so it looks like this. Okay, now this is where sometimes, because I'm in a rush, I make a few mistakes. I'm going to try not to. So first step is, let's save this. So file, save as. Make sure this is an Excel workbook so I don't lose my calculations, and this is going to be calculate. First letter is capital, underscore my candidate number, and save. There we go, it's up there. Perfect. So I'm going to format this now, and I'm going to try and make I take a screenshot of this so I can be showing you as well at the same time. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make this a bit smaller because it doesn't have to be that big. It's a small spreadsheet, so I can do this in one screen more than likely. There we go. And this is going to help me as well. Let's just make it a bit smaller. Okay, there we go. All right, so first off, I want to merge cells ABC. So I'm going to merge these. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to find this difficult going from one side to another side. So merge and center. And then I want a background. It looks like a gray background. I'm just going to put gray, and I'll check later on if it wants something else. And make that a bit bold. Okay, and then we want, so we can see the borders. So it's just borders and some alignment. So that's actually not bold, that one, is it? So get rid of the bold. These have got borders. And the alignment, so hang on, this one here, alignment is all to the right. Let's do that first. And then we've got these are center aligned. The B is a bit bigger. Okay, and these are center aligned. So I'm just going to make these center aligned for now. And then I want to put the borders. So I'm just going to expand this and just do the borders as they are. You can check your question paper. So there's those ones there, that one there, these 3 columns, and then just this one here. Okay, and that should look similar to that screenshot now. Okay, yep. 2, 1. All right, so there you go. Again, I'm going to have a look through this slowly, and just double check it, make sure it's correct if there is something that's missed. Okay, let's jump over to the question paper. So it says format spreadsheet, so it looks like this. Make sure that cells A1 to C1 are merged and have an 18-point black font on a light blue background. Okay, so if I had read a bit further on, I would have saved myself some time there, but I'm just going to make that size 18. And it should be a light blue background. I don't know why it matters, because you don't print in color anyway. So it's going to come out light gray. All right. Then enter your name, center number, and candidate number right aligned in the header. All right, let's do that. So I'm just going to go from here, from my view, I'm going to go to my page layout view. And then from here, it doesn't say where, oh, right aligned. So it does name, Okay, and then I can go back to my view and go, I'll click inside here and then go to normal. So I've done the header and footer. Next, place a formula in cell B6 to look up, here we go, to look up the name of the lodge or camp using the camp code and the external file that. Okay, so that's what we assumed. So we want the camp name in B6. That's going to be a simple VLOOKUP function. So I'm just going to put here equals to VLOOKUP, open brackets. The value I'm going to look up is going to be the camp code. And I'm going to press the F4 key at the top to make that an absolute reference because I don't want it to change. Okay, and comma. Now I want my table array. My table array is going to be from this table. So I need to select all of this, only these two columns. Remember, the VLOOKUP works with the first column being the lookup column. So this is column 1. That's always going to be the lookup column. And then you say which column is going to have the answer. In this case, it's going to be column 2. So then I'm going to press comma. Then I want the column index number. That's which column has got the answer that I want to return. It's going to be column 2. So it's going to be 2. And then I want to specify whether I want an exact match or approximate match. Well, I want an exact match. It has to find the exact thing it's looking for, so the code. So click on that, close the brackets, and press enter. And that should give me, let me just expand that now. That should give me the right one. I'll just make it a bit bigger. So to test this yourself, just change the code. I'm just going to put the random code. I'm going to put, let's say, 22 here from 17. That says it's Olara Kempinski. So if we check that, 22 is Olara Kempinski. So that worked. So now we can change that back. There we go. Okay, next one. It says, so we've done that one, we've done that one. And place a formula in cell B7 to look up the distance in miles from the lodge or camp using the launch site and the external file entered for distance for the array. This is our Hlookup, guys, remember? So let's go back. So basically what we want to do here is, depending on what this camp code is, it should return the distance from the launch site specified here. So we here want to find what the distance is for launch site E from camp 17. And if we check that from camp 17, launch site E, which is this one, the answer should be 27.8 miles. So how do we do this? If you've really taken the time to understand how these lookups work, this is not hard. Now, in my links in the description below, I've got a link to a tutorial for lookup functions. Watch that, learn it, because if you have lookups, it's going to be a lifesaver. So how does this work? Well, the VLOOKUP works with you selecting a table. The first column is the lookup column, and then you specify column 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 to get the answer from which one of those columns. The Hlookup is exactly the same, but here's my question. If I was to select this as my array, it will find here column E. Okay, that's fine. But then we need to tell it which row is it going to go down and return the answer from. Well, how do we decide? We want it to know that it's supposed to choose this one. But the only way it can do that is if we tell it the correct row number. And that's not practical. This is why they're giving us these incrementing numbers here. That's going to be our return row number, but it's not going to be exact. Why? The first row number is this one. This is number 1. This is number 2. This one here is number 3. So if I wanted to return for camp code 1, I would have to say whatever the camp code is plus 2, because it's 1, 2, 3. If I wanted to return what was in camp code 5, then that will be 8. Well, sorry, it will be 7. No, 3. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need to add 2. So whatever the camp code is, add 2 to it. So from this one here, if I wanted to return for camp code 4, then that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you see? So whatever the camp code is, plus 2. And that's how we do the VLOOKUP. Sorry, the Hlookup. So let's do that. So from here, we're going to do equals to H lookup, open bracket. Now, the first thing that we want to do is, what is the lookup value? Well, the lookup value is going to be the launch site. Again, I don't want this to change as I copy things over. You don't have to, because we're not going to be copying this formula anyway, but out of common practice, I'm going to make that absolute. Comma. Now I want my table array. So my table array is going to be all of this. Okay, so the lookup row is going to be the first one. It's going to try and find the match of the lookup value in that first row, comma. And then it's asking, well, when I find a match in this row here, which row number do I use to return a value? Well, that's going to be whatever the camp code is. So the camp code is this one, whatever number we've got in here, plus 2. Okay, comma, and again, I want an exact match. Let's close that bracket and press enter. So there's the formula. Let me just spread that out so you can see it nice and clearly. Okay, so it's my lookup value. Then here is my table. Then I'm looking up whatever's inside B4 plus 2. I can also make that B4 an absolute. It really doesn't matter, because I'm not going to be copying this down. If I was copying this down, or of course I would need to make that absolute, plus 2. So in this case, the answer is 27.8. That is correct. Why? Because it's taking 17 plus 2, which is 19. So if we go down 19, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's the correct one for the one with camp code 17. Okay? All right. That was interesting. I like those ones. All right. Place a formula in cell B8 to calculate the time in minutes taken for the journey from the lodge or camp to the launch site, where the vehicle travels at 20 miles per hour. Time equals to distance times 60 divided by speed. Well, the speed is 20 miles per hour. So let's go back. So this is going to be in B8. So that's going to be equals to the distance, which is that one there. Again, I'm going to make that absolute. I just prefer using absolute, makes common sense to me. Multiplied by 60. Divided by, now I don't need brackets because division multiplication, they have the same priority, by 20. Okay, there you go. 83. Oh, sorry, that was in the wrong one. I wanted this in B8, so I'm just going to copy that and put that there, and then I can delete that one. Okay, so that's 83.4. So that's in minutes. Place a formula in cell B8 to calculate the time in minutes taken for the journey from the lodge or the campsite to site where the vehicle travels at 20 miles per hour. Okay, so that's 83.4, and it says in minutes, and this is in miles. All right, perfect. So I think the only thing we've got left to do now is the cost. Okay, then place a formula in cell B10 to calculate the cost for this journey. Cost equals to the driving time rounded to the nearest hour times, oh, look at that. So we've been working in minutes, but now we need to round to the nearest hour. That basically means however many minutes we've got, we need to divide that by 60. Okay. Multiplied by 2,200 shillings plus the distance in miles times 800 shillings. So whatever the distance is, we're going to multiply that by 800. Okay, so for me, you don't have to, again, this is all multiplication, division. You got that plus sign there. So the multiplication here and the multiplication here is going to force that to multiply with that first, and then the distance to be multiplied with the 800 shillings. It's going to do those, and then it's going to do the plus because of the hierarchy. So you don't need brackets, but I'm going to use brackets anyway. Okay, so let's jump back. So my cost, it says, is driving time round to the nearest hour times 2,200. So the driving time is this one. So I'm going to do equals to round whatever's inside here divided by 60. So that's going to round, and I'm going to round that to 0. So I don't, to the nearest hour. I don't want any decimal values. So I'm just going to test this first. There you go. That's going to be 1 hour. Then I'm going to add all of, then I'm going to multiply that by 2,200. So the nearest hour out of 83 minutes is basically 1 hour. That's going to be that value there. Okay, so I'm testing this as I'm going. I'm going to put all of this in brackets just to make it easier for me to read. And I'm going to add that to, I'm going to open up brackets, whatever the distance is in miles. So here's the distance multiplied by 800. Close that. And there's my answer, 24,440. Now, again, you don't have to do this, but I like making these things which are fixed values there. I'm just going to make them absolute references. This is just good practice because it just shows, for me, I'm not going to copy this down, so it doesn't make a difference. But in case I was in another exercise, I'm used to doing this. All right, and I need that apply, and then it says over here, apply appropriate formatting to cell B10. So appropriate formatting, that's cost. And if we look at the beginning, it said it should be displayed in Tanzanian shillings, should have TZS. Okay, now they've got 12.50 and the TZS at the end. I'm not sure whether it has to be there or not because that's just an example, but let's just go and do that. So here I'm going to select this. I'm going to go to Home. I'm going to go to General up here, and I'm going to change this to number formats. I'm going to make sure I choose currency. For the symbol, I'm going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to see whether I've got a TZS. No? Oh, there it is. There it is there. Now, even if you didn't have a TZS, I'm going to show you how you will be able to do this anyway. Let's say they gave you a symbol which doesn't exist. So I'm just going to show you a quick method as well. So I'm just going to click on that and click OK. And there we go. Now, in the example, and this was, they just gave you an example, it had the currency value and the TZS afterwards. I don't think you need to have it afterwards, but that's what I'm going to show you how to do it afterwards and how you can add any code. So let's say you chose any code. Let's say it even was not TZS. I'm going to go to currency, more number formats, and then I'm going to go to custom. And now can you see it's picked up here? It's showing you up here the custom format. Now, it won't allow you to click with the mouse and go backwards, so you can use the arrows. Watch this. So here's the arrow keys. I could change this to TZD, which may not exist. Click OK, and there it is. All right, so let's go and change that again. We're going to make that TZ capital S. And this time, what I'm going to do, before that hashtag, I'm going to select everything using the Shift and the arrow key. So I've got the Shift button pressed, and I'm pressing the arrow button to select. I'm going to press Control X to cut. And then I'm going to go to the end, press space, and paste. So what this is going to do, it's going to add the symbol after the currency value. There you go. So I made it look exactly the same. I don't think you have to do this because it says, for example, it simply said that you had to have TZS. But I've shown you how you can use any symbol by choosing any one of the custom formats and then going to custom and formatting it. So there we go. All right. So we've done that part there. Where are we up to? Apply appropriate formatting to C10. So to B10, we've done that. Oh, so is that it? There we go. All right, so save your spreadsheet, print your spreadsheet showing the formula, make sure that the printout is in landscape, orientation, the row and column headings are displayed, the contents of all cells are fully visible. So I'm going to go all the way, I'm going to do this through the print preview because you should be using the print preview. So I'm going to go to File, print. And then from here, I'm going to make sure that's landscape. Oh, and it said the formulas first, yeah? So let's just go back. And then from here, I can go to formulas, and I can say here, show formulas. I'm going to select everything using the corner tab and then double clicking between two columns. That just adjusts everything to make sure all my formulas are totally visible. Okay, I don't have anything like this, for example, chopping that formula off there. So that's a nice little trick. And now I can go to File, Print, make sure that is landscape. There we go, it fits. Row and column headings are displayed. So I'm going to go to Page Setup, and I'm going to go to Sheet, Row and Column Headings. Now we can see the column letters and the row numbers, and the contents are visible. And I will click on Print, choose your appropriate print, and click Print. Okay, the next one, it says, print the spreadsheet showing the values, make sure that the printout fits on a single page. Contents of all cells are fully, it doesn't say whether it's portrait or landscape, that's entirely up to you then. Then I will go back. From here, I'm going to go to formulas, get rid of show formulas. Again, I'm going to do the same thing as before. Click in that corner tab, double click between two columns. That adjusts everything so it's the right size. I can now go to File, Print, and I can leave that as portrait or as landscape. I can make it portrait. It doesn't matter as long as it fits on one page. My details are up here on the top. Now, before I actually print, what I would normally do though is I would enter two different values here and make sure that these things here are correct. So let's say I was to put two random, I will put a D and a 7. Okay, so camp code 7, it says Angama Lodge. So let's just check that. There it is there. Angama, so sorry, number 7, Angama Lodge. That's correct. There it is. And I said launch site D. So D is 33.1 miles. And there it is, 33.1 miles. So my formulas do work. The last thing I would do, just put that back, is double check, read the questions carefully, because this was a tricky one. The one where you had to do this one here in hours, rounded to the nearest hour. So you had to think that this is in minutes, they want it rounded to hours, you need to divide it by 60 and use round. Wow, what a paper. It wasn't a very long paper. The number of tasks that you had to do were not that many, but they were a little bit tricky. You had to read carefully. You had to pay attention to those questions. You had to read the scenarios, especially the spreadsheet part, the Excel part. You had to read the scenario. You had to be a little bit careful with the questions, read them, reread them, and just make sure that you really understood what it's asking you to do. That Hlookup function where you had to use the code as the return row number and adding 2 to it. These are the things that are going to take up the time. So if you get a good understanding quickly by reading the questions, analyzing the spreadsheets given to you so that you can resolve the problems quickly, you should be able to finish this paper really quickly. Otherwise, use the time to really study those sheets and understand the questions. Remember, they're giving you 2 hours and 15 minutes and there's not a lot of work. It goes to say that you will not understand what you have to do the first time you read it. That's normal. Okay, so if you don't understand something straight away from the get-go, don't get disappointed. Read it again, and then if you don't understand it, what do? Read it again and keep reading. And the more times you read it and look at the data, it's going to click. You're going to understand it, I promise you. Okay, so if you learned something new, you enjoyed this video, or you found this video helpful, you know the drill. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. And me, Nikos Papidis from Science Cyprus, will see you again in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.